to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. It's WTF, Window Treatment Friday. Today's Window Treatment Friday, I am taking the opportunity to introduce you to the newest sponsor to A Well-Designed Business, Kirsch. Whether you are an interior designer or a window treatment professional, you probably are already familiar with Kirsch, since Kirsch has been an industry leader for more than 100 years. Not only are they the leader in drapery hardware, but they have a custom window coverings program as well. Kirsch began when Charles Kirsch invented the first curtain rod and telescoping rod in 1907. Soon after, he published his first style book, which provided guidance to purchasers of drapery hanging specialties. His goal was to really connect with people and about his amazing products. Then in 1923, the first Kirsch patented lace curtain rod was created. From there, one of the most important developments in drapery hardware history happened when he designed the deluxe cut-to-measure drapery hardware. Over the next 50 years, the Kirsch brand created many advancements that would change our industry forever. I'm so proud to welcome Kirsch as a sponsor to the show, and today I have Matt Johnson and Sarah Frost with me to talk about the latest innovations that Kirsch is bringing to us, the design and the window treatment community. Matt Johnson is the National Sales Manager of Kirsch Drapery Hardware and leads a team of experienced sales professionals. Over his 22 years in the window coverings industry, Matt has sales experience in multiple channels of businesses, including national retailers, independent retailers, builders, contract and commercial accounts, as well as distributors. His rich background and understanding of the window coverings industry has allowed him to apply his passion of working with business owners and designers to develop sales and marketing strategies to improve their sales and service. Sarah Frost is the brand manager for Kirsch Drapery Hardware. She oversees a talented team that creates conceptual designs and implementation of the marketing initiatives for the drapery hardware launches and projects. Sarah has experience in hard window coverings as well as drapery hardware in previous positions as product manager and in sales. So, here we go. I'd love to introduce you to Matt and Sarah and the Kirsch brand as well. Hi, Matt. Hi, Sarah. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so I'm so grateful and so honored to welcome you guys as sponsors of my podcast here and welcome you to our community of interior designers. And of course, at Window Works, we've had a Kirsch account from the very beginning. And so for me, this was a no-brainer, to have a collaboration and a partnership with you guys. And so I'm really looking forward to sharing all of the goodness at Kirsch with all of my colleagues out there. Matt, do me a favor. You've been with the company a long time. Why don't you first just give us a little synopsis on Kirsch and its terrific history in the industry, because some designers, it might be new information for them.
Definitely, Luann, and thanks. It's great to be here on a WTF, so I appreciate it. The history of Kirsch, I've been part of it for 22 years now, so I've had the privilege of being with Kirsch for quite some time. But we, of course, have a long history beyond that. We were established in 1907, and so have over 100 years in the window coverings business. And we are the most recognized brand name in drapery hardware. Really, that recognition comes from a history of great product innovation, including products like Architrack, estate rods, and of course, the ever popular Ripple Fold these days. So.
Isn't it great when something that's old is new comes back in again, and you're just like, you guys are all amazed by that, but we did that like forever ago, right?
I have so much fun with that at trainings. You have no idea. When someone looks at something that I know has been in the industry for 60 years and they think, wow, that's really great. How'd you come up with it? So
the only thing that, Vita and I always make a joke about are like, Swags and Jabos actually going to come back.
Right. There's some you're not asking to come back. Sarah knows all about that.
What's so funny about that is, how could they, like, on one hand, I think, how could they not? Because, like if you go to historical documents and historical photographs and historical homes, they were so a part of the design, like Victorian era and so forth like that, right? And so then when they had their heyday in the 70s and the 80s and a little bit into the 90s, it's illogical to think that they won't come back, but I just can't picture it now. Like, I just really cannot picture it.
I agree. Everything's so clean that you don't see it, but it all comes back.
Exactly.
I'm sure Sarah, as a marketing manager, is thinking they'll come back the second I take them out of the program. Then they'll make a big time comeback. So
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I mean, and the thing is, I have to say, as a window treatment professional, the one thing about Swags, apart from the aesthetic, is they were the most versatile top treatment. You first of all, board mounted makes life so much easier to put the drapery rods into the board for mounting, right? We used to always be able to do that. But just the scale and the size can easily be adjusted for almost, and like, listen to me, pining for something I don't even like to anymore. It's just so practical. Anyway, it's like wishing for, flat shoes to be in style all the time. It's like, it's not going to happen. So. No. All righty. So Kirsch it's a major brand in our industry, and it is one of the most, as you said, recognizable names for hardware. And what I've loved is the way it has been the leader and innovator in drapery hardware, and has grown and morphed and changed through the years with all of the different products. And Matt, you're in Kirsch 22 years, and so you've come through and the history and everything. But Sarah, our friend Sarah, is a little bit newer, and she's younger, and she's got new ideas, right, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, when we got the brand and started looking everything over, I mean, the first thing is how overwhelming drapery hardware can be if you're not ingrained in it every day. And so some of the things that we really tried to do was, let's not make this a challenge for everyone out there. Let's make it easier. And, that started with the collections that we have and the products that we have in our price list, and looking at things like that and saying, okay, well, as newbies, to the drapery hardware industry, I mean, I've been in the window treatment industry for 13 years now. So it's been a long time, but just to drapery hardware, it's like, how can we make this easier for the designers and the decorators that are coming and wanting to use our products? And so we really were just trying to breathe new life into the Kirsch brand. And we started doing that by re-engaging with the trade. Our general manager, at the time, Bill White, he went out and met with all of our distributors and heard what they had to say. We met with designers and distributors to talk about what was working and what wasn't working. We went to the first year that we had Kirsch, we didn't show at any trade shows, but we were present to try to hear, what people were saying. And then over the past couple of years, we've been showing at trade shows to make sure our presence is there and to make sure we have a face in front of our customers so that they can come and tell us, what they're looking for, what they're missing, what they love, what they don't love, just to make sure that we're there and doing what they need us to do as a drapery hardware company.
It's important because I have to tell you, drapery hardware is a pain in the booty. I mean, it is.
It is. There's so many choices out there now. Kirsch used to be the only option, really.
Right. This is true.
And that changed. And I mean, and competition is a good thing. It makes you do things better. So all of those things, we took all of that into account, and what we were doing right, what we were doing wrong, what our competitors were doing right, and what they were doing wrong, and saying, okay, well, where are the holes, and where can we fill the holes, and simplify it to not just give more options, but better options.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's, if I could, I think that's really where Sarah's experience has helped a lot with kind of finding out the information that's needed really to place those orders. And that's helped guide really the product development process, I think, for us is, as Sarah said, talk to the trade and figure out where we were deficient and then allow that to kind of take us to the next step.
Well, and I have to say, it's interesting that you were able to discover so much feedback to your point, to discover where you're deficient and make the improvements, because having used Kirsch for more than 3 decades, I do think you've always, I know you've always made it easy to specify and order drapery hardware. Now, you know, you have to have some proficiency in doing it, but in the process to just, though, even to your point, Sarah, it's funny because I hadn't thought about it until you said it, but even the price lists have always been, here's all the product that you need. It's in one spot. How about like the fact that you've always offered things as sets, number one, and then as components, number two. And that's very important and has always been easy. But even that, and that's what I was saying, even when it's felt easy to do, it still is always tedious in the sense that there's so much to know about drapery hardware before you actually place the order. And but my point is working with your company, it always has been a little bit layer of easier. How's that for English? It's always been a little bit easier because so often a drapery hardware company will have all of the components listed separately, and you have to like build your rod. You have to put it all together. And I can do that now. I know how to do that, but it does take time. And I know that with us at WindowWorks, working with so many designers, it's so funny because typically when a new designer comes to WindowWorks, they will say, oh, well, can we specify our own fabric and order from the companies and have it drop shipped to you? And we say yes. And they say, and the same with drapery hardware. And I think to myself, yeah, go ahead. Like, good luck with that. And usually they'll plow through 2 or 3 orders and parts won't be there, pieces won't be there, the wrong brackets will be there, and they'll finally just say, could you order my hardware? We can. But I'm also very lucky because guess what? Kim loves drapery hardware. Like, she loves it. So she even orders it on my jobs. I'm just like, I'm not doing this. You love it. You do it. Right? Yeah. So it's a complicated product.
We do see that from the design community too, them reaching out to different resources, workrooms, and different, just different avenues to educate themselves on the product. And so being able to, provide that information to them is really important, I think.
Mm-hmm. And I love, and basically there was a long way to say that I feel like you've always presented it in an organized way. That's really the succinct way to say that whole run-on sentence. That's what I would agree to and explain. And the thing is, so it's interesting that, Sarah, you're revamping it again. Your team is revising and revamping again based on all of the input that Bill White has gotten in his travels around the country. So what kinds of things are part of this new improved way of Kirsch presenting and making hardware?
Well, I mean, just to start with, when we back in 2017, for 2018, we just worked on the price list, reorganizing it, making it easier to navigate. And then we listened to the fact that all of our collections hadn't been touched in years. So the first thing that we wanted to work on, especially because of the popularity of it, is our designer metals collection. So we looked at bringing out nicer looking brackets that held today's heavier weight draperies. We looked at bringing in new styles of finials that mix medias and with acrylics, and also some updated, more transitional styles. And then we added in another color for polished nickel back in 2018. So those are just some small tweaks that we were able to do within that line. And then within our wood trends line, we cleaned it up, made it easier to offer. All of the styles and all of the sizes are available in all of the colors. So that makes it easy. If you have a client that likes a certain finial in a certain color, you can't go, oh, I'm sorry, that's not available in this size, or, oh, I'm sorry, that's not available in this color. You now have it all available. And then we also brought in some new Architrack colors for our Architrack line. Our Architrack line historically has always been white, which for years and years and years, that's great. But now with the trends in colors going into grays and taupes and moodier colors and navies and blacks, we wanted to make sure that we had a track that could accommodate that. So we brought in bronze and anodized and black, so that you have that. You don't have to have this stark white track up against your black walls or taupe walls or gray walls. So we just looked at all of the 2018 was a blessing and a curse all at the same time, because we looked at every collection and did something to everything. Wow. Everything got touched.
And that's important because, you know, as we mentioned a few moments ago, the ripple fold is so popular now, and that Architrack is the, you know, go-to rod for 80% of your ripple fold products. And it was true. It was, I can remember 4 or 5 years ago standing there in front of designers who were just, you know, hopping on the ripple fold wave, and them saying, the rod has to be white. Well, could you make it so that I don't see the rod? And I'm like, yeah, let's get your carpenter. Let's carve out the ceiling. Let's put that rod in the ceiling, you know, and because of course that's the whole design of the rod, is that the drape sits below the rod. And it has been, I know we have been really taking advantage of those colored tracks for ripple fold, because it is so, and even sometimes you want, how about this white ceiling, white drape? You want that black line there of that track. Right. So very cool. So from a starting board standpoint, you looked at the line and started with all of the things that weren't selling. I mean, you just gathered that data and said, this is our dead wood, right?
Yeah, that's the great thing about our team, is it always starts with, I mean, there are things that I love being, you know, a mid 30-year-old female that, you know, my counterpart, Matt, you know, may not love, but it all starts with the numbers. Like,
what sells?
How are things selling? How are things doing? And we look at trends. So even though it may not have sold well this year, it sold 40% more this year than it did last year. So it looks like it's going in a direction to where it'd be a bad time to kill it off. So we looked at all of those things. And then once we were able to look at the collections and figure out how we needed to clean them up and fix them, then we had to turn to all of our support material, all of the marketing material and the sampling and everything that goes out into the designer's hands. So we had to redo our entire color chip portfolios. We had to look at all of our brochures. So all of that also had to be revamped completely in 2018.
You really upped the game there. I remember the first time I met you a year ago, and we were talking, and I asked you what was your role in the company, and one of the things that you said is that you were very much a part of the team and leading the team that revamped the sampling and the catalog and so forth. And I was like, well, home run on that lady, because what a difference. It really just such... it's almost like you don't even know you didn't like the other one until you saw the new one.
Right.
Well,
right.
I'll tell you, on that front, I couldn't agree more, Luann. And again, this is coming from someone that has lived with all the positives of the brand and unfortunately all the negatives of the brand for a couple of decades now. And the price book was a real pain point for a lot of our customers. And what Sarah did to that, as far as raising the game, really gave our customers everything they asked for, feedback wise, bigger images, bigger fonts, better descriptions, more detailed information at the point of price, where you're pricing out the product, so that there were fewer reference manuals to flip back and forth to a digital version of the price list. And that really is the tool for us. That is, that tool is kind of our lifeblood. It's something that people have relied on for a number of years. So changing it is, always a real dicey prospect.
Yeah, because usually the old guard like me goes, why? Why did you change it? But I loved it.
Certainly. And it's always it's always kind of the splitting the difference between, what incoming designers want to see and some of the clean, fresh looks that now are more internet inspired. And then what we see, kind of from our former guide. And Sarah just did an amazing job, really kind of serving all masters on that one, and really, I think, giving us an amazing pricing tool.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and the updates to the collections obviously are great as well. But that piece of information, I think, has really helped kind of keep that clean communication you referred to before. It is something we've always been known for, is information being made very understandable. And so now this is kind of, again, Sarah taking it up a notch for us. So
absolutely. I have a question for you, Sarah. I just spent the recently time at High Point Market, and at one point we were a bunch of people sitting around, all designers, and the conversation came to window treatments, and a couple of them were saying how they were wanting wood drapery poles to come back, and were starting to specify it themselves again. And it was interesting to me because they were young. They were in their 30s. And I thought, isn't that funny? So what do you see the wood poles and the tide turning back to that a little bit?
So it's interesting you bring that up. So this year, for our 2020 launch, we are actually completely revamping our Buckingham collection.
Oh, wow.
Our Buckingham collection has always been very traditional. It's got such a cool story in the fact that it's made here in the USA, and it's all hand finished in High Point, North Carolina. And most people don't know that.
I didn't know that.
It's so cool, but it has always been very heavy traditional. So the new styles that we're coming out with and the new colors we're coming out with are going to be very different from what people have been used to seeing in our Buckingham collection. We've got 9 new finials coming out. We've got 6 new finishes coming out. And I think that they are going to be really popular just because I do think it kind of lends itself to. The great thing about wood products is when you look at a true wood product, you have that beauty of nature, and you have the beauty that is imperfection. It's kind of like I always think about granite versus quartz, like in a kitchen countertop. Quartz is man-made. So even if they try to put this swirl to it or something, it's not made by the 1,000 years of pressure that granite is made with. And you never know what's going to happen in granite. You'll see granite stones that are solid black, but then they have these flecks of turquoise in them. And it's just because of the stone and the pressure and what's happened. So I think that's the beauty when you can get a natural product and then you carve it and then you stain it. You get those beautiful, grains in the wood and all of that. So I do think that there's a place for wood and for stained finishes in our wood drapery hardware to come back. I just didn't touch our wood trends collection as far as color is concerned this year because I couldn't get the colors I wanted. So we went through rounds and rounds and rounds of various stains, and I couldn't find the right colors. And I said, the beauty of having a wood pole with wood finials and wood brackets that's all made of wood is that when you stain it, it brings out this beauty. So I could paint it and get a perfect color because Benjamin Moore and Sherwin-Williams, they have this rainbow of colors.
Right.
But you lose the texture of a wood pole and a wood finial. So I do think there's a place for it to come back. We just didn't touch it this year because I couldn't get it perfect in the way we wanted it. And so we went to our Buckingham vendor and said, we hand finish these this is what we're looking for. And they were able to give us some hand-painted, hand-finished product with some really awesome textures on it. So I think that they will do really well because of that, the beauty in not only the color, but in the texture.
Well, I'm going to tell you what, this is hysterical because my Kim, who is the interior designer that works for me and sells window treatments, she was the one who started the conversation. She said, what do you think about wood poles and wood? I want to see it come back. I just specified it on a project. And then a couple, there was a couple that jumped in and said, yeah, I'm sort of liking it too. Others were like just a little hesitant. And I remember I literally sat there during the conversation not contributing. And here was my thought. I was looking at my Kim, who works for me, and thinking, that's crazy. What makes you, how do you even contemplate, I want wood poles to come back in because I think I like them again and I want to specify them. I was thinking, are you ahead of are you ahead of the curve, or are you just so willing to be your own designer that it's okay? And here it turns out that it's both. She's ahead of the curve because it's going to be coming back. Interesting for me because I don't ever take anything from a design standpoint to that level, but she is a true designer and just happens to dedicate her career to custom window treatments. But I don't think of it in those terms. I'm more like, yeah, you want a wood pole or a metal pole? Let's go.
Right.
So that's interesting. And she's going to be so thrilled to know that she was ahead of the game there. Of course, I remember Buckingham from 20 years ago.
And it's getting a new facelift.
Yes, and honestly, it needed it, right? It definitely did.
And it is such a unique story, especially within our line of products, and it gets lost, and most people don't know that. But it's got some potential. So I am nervous and anxious to see how it does, but I think it'll be well received. Everything we've done to this point, and whenever we talk to our distributors and designers, we hear the same things. So I feel like we're listening and giving people what they want, and so I hope we just translated it well.
Okay, but you mentioned it before too. You said something about the story of the Buckingham collection is unique. Do you just mean did you mean the collection, the pieces, or do you mean the story of how it came about?
Just the fact that it's a full collection of product that is made in the USA and hand finished in the USA. It's custom done per job, so it's not mass produced.
Right.
And to me, it kind of lends itself to the history of High Point, North Carolina, of the furniture carvers and the people who would, make furniture, and it was all manufactured here in the U.S. The way that the Buckingham product is actually made is we will, or our vendor will sketch up a design, and then depending on, how that design evolves, they will actually have a furniture carver, a wood carver, carve the finial out of a piece of wood. And then we take that, look at it, and then we make a mold out of it. And then that is what the finials are made out of, is that mold.
Wow.
And so it's a cool way of doing things. Now, the cool thing about technology these days is for this Buckingham collection revamp, if you want to call it, we were actually able to use 3D printing. So me and my engineer and our team were able to look at designs, get them 3D printed, and scale them and look at them ourselves to make it easier. So then we sent them up to our vendor and said, here you go, this is what we want. They didn't have to sit and tweak them so many times.
Wow, that's crazy.
I know.
And
it was great.
The finishing process is equally amazing, really. Some of these finishes have 11 different coats on them in order to achieve the look, that that kind of multi-pass look that we are going for with Buckingham. So again, the craftsmanship just in applying those layers of finish in a way where we can really recreate that look. It's pretty amazing.
Very nice. Very nice. I love it. And you also you have other introductions. We have the Breeza, the whole motorization that you are coming out with, all of that stuff. Tell us about those things.
Yeah, Breeza was a fantastic launch for us this year. And, we talked about our long history and all of the great products that we've brought to Drapery Hardware over the years. But here we are in the middle of kind of the tech boom, really, for window coverings. Many retailers doing 30% or 40% of their business in some type of motorized product. And here we were in 2019 and did not yet have a motorized Drapery hardware rod. So we were extremely
That does sound a little
excited.
crazy, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And trust me, for years, it kind of goes back to what Sarah was saying. For years, the brand had just been neglected from a product development standpoint. And so we are, so excited to infuse the brand with some of these things that we just knew that it needed in order to continue to uphold that great tradition that we've had. Breeza is definitely one of them. We've been very happy with the launch of Breeza. And really, I think the biggest thing that sets Breeza aside from other motorized offerings, and kind of one of the things I think as a brand you have to think through when you are in some ways the last of the brands to bring out a motorized product, is how's our motorized product going to bring value to the design community? They have alternatives that are available to them today. And our product team and Sarah, again, did a great job really designing this particular product to have a feature where, in essence, we no longer need to create special draperies to go on our Breeza rod. Specifically, what we do is the carriers are allowed to pass over the motor itself. So the motor sits in behind the carriers as opposed to on the end of the rod, as many of our competitors do. And anyone that would be listening that's ever sold motorization knows that it has kind of that large motorized return flap, right, to cover the motor. So we are now very excited that our product would be able to accept a quote unquote traditional drapery or a standard drapery. I know there's no such thing, but a standard sewn drapery at least would be able to be accommodated by our rods. And that's a great feature for us. I mean, that gives a designer a lot of opportunity when she's in the customer's home. Now if the customer is only interested in getting that one sliding glass door motorized or that one picture window, the other units that are sold throughout the home or the other estate rods sold throughout the home could be cord drawn or baton drawn, and all of those products would look exactly the same from the inside of the home from the customer's perspective. That's a really important thing. I think that consistency between windows is something that designers are always trying to achieve, kind of carry that look throughout the home. So we're excited that our product finally gives them the opportunity to do that with a motorized unit.
I remember seeing this. You tell me I'm correct. I did see this at the IWCE last year, didn't I? Where were we last year? I didn't remember.
You did. We launched it in Tampa. We had
Tampa,
it
right?
Tampa last year. Yeah. And
yes,
then,
I remember thinking like that's so sleek.
Yeah, it's a great look, and really, again, it's. I guess the way I like to talk about it in trainings or when I'm presenting to designers, to me, it's the first of the motorized drapery tracks that's been designed around the drapery, which is, if you think about it, that's the way we're always selling as designers, right? As we're going in, we're selling the drapery, and then we're finding the drapery hardware that supports that beautiful treatment that we just convinced the customer to buy. It can be tough when then you get to the drapery hardware portion and you start talking about motorized, and you have to unveil that it has this big flap on the end. Right. So this is just kind of, again, allows the designer to sell in a lot of different ways. You could almost present control features at the end now, as opposed to most designers are asking at the beginning about motorization to try to avoid some of those pitfalls. We're very excited. It also
has the tug feature that is not, is that unique to you guys? I don't know that to be on other rods, but I'm not, I don't go on the install. So is that unique to you guys?
There are some other competitors that also have the tug feature, but we have a few different ways actually to control the product that I think make it conducive both for residential and for commercial settings. But the tug feature is definitely one of them. And that feature is, in essence, allows a customer to walk up and just pull on the drapery, and the drapery will recognize that it's trying to be operated and open itself to its set limits.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I have 3 kids, so that's a great feature if you have little ones that aren't necessarily going to go looking for the remote every single time.
Right.
But that's a great
Or if
feature.
they lose the remote on you. How
Or,
about that? That's what I
yeah,
thought you were going to
a
say.
the loss of the remote is another one.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or in an application where it may be a rental or like an Airbnb or a hotel to where people don't necessarily know they're motorized.
Hmm.
Right.
So
Yeah, and
if
the
they were to
commercial
pull on them,
aspects,
and
certainly.
yeah, that could be an issue.
Yeah.
Right. So they pull, right. Because that is the truth. If you pull
Mm-hmm.
on a motorized drapery, it's not your, like you said, you're in a hotel and you're just thinking it's jammed. You're keep
Mm-hmm.
pulling.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Right.
And now if
And
that happens, it'll engage and start to move.
absolutely, and kind of related to that, and also related to the hotel example, our product would also, if there were a loss of power at any time, the motor does disengage, so that then the draperies can just be freely hand traversed at that point. So it becomes kind of a safety feature in case there is an issue where there's a loss of power and you do need to get to the windows or you can't find the remote. The product also would have that control feature available to it.
I love
We do,
that.
yeah, we do offer it with a 5-channel remote, so easy, very easy to program and very easy to set up. Actually, one of the great selling features to me of Breeza is that it is a perfect solution for the customer that is looking for a 1 or 2 motorized tracks in their home. But they don't necessarily need to go the entire home integration route.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of folks currently are, and a lot of designers in particular, are intimidated by motorization. The fact that they feel like they're going to get pulled into this whole home integration situation that they're uncomfortable with. Technology can be scary when it comes to that. Our product is very, very easy to install. It's built on the Estate platform and the Architrack platform. So for those designers that have sold Estate throughout the years or sold Architrack throughout the years, they're going to be very comfortable with the way this product looks, with the brackets it uses, with the way it installs on the wall. Those are all going to be completely familiar to them. And the pairing of the remote and motor is extremely easy. It's basically a touch of a button on each. So that's something we feel like most designers or installers are going to be extremely comfortable with. And then the product itself actually sets its own tension limits. So the first time it's operated, the product will set its own tension limits for the customer. And at that point, really, it's ready to be used. So it's a very familiar product to sell from because of the familiarity with Estate, really familiar product to install, and very easy to set up and program. And that's kind of the approach we've really taken to the marketplace with Breeza. There are some terrific motorized options out there for integrations, and our product can be fully integrated as well. We have a serial port, but we think it's a great product for that designer that wants to try motorization, but maybe not necessarily try it all the way up to the level of whole home integrations.
So that's interesting because I have that written down as you were talking. I was writing a couple of questions. It can be integrated into a home automation system, though, if we want to.
It absolutely can. Yeah, it has that capability. The motor contains a serial port, and so it can be, ported into a bridge and then controlled from that as well. But again, for those customers that want a standalone unit and don't want to go into that, they wouldn't necessarily be required to, or be required to have that kind of tech experience.
Yeah. Well, it goes both ways. Whether you're experienced in motorization or not, you could walk into one client who is saying, I've got the whole house wired and smart home automated, and I want my drape to talk to it. So it's nice to know that even though your product is available to us in a simple and straightforward way, sometimes that's a requirement. And so we wouldn't want to eliminate your category of motorization because it couldn't talk to it. I can tell you from my own experience, I love it when they don't want it all talking to 16 other different kinds of motorization, right? But I know that I have to be prepared prepared to do it. And we've done it, dozens of times. And so it's nice to know that you can just say, yes, I can do that. I don't know how to do it. I don't say that. The inside voice is, yeah, I have no idea, but Billy does. The outside voice is, yes, I can do that.
Well,
so that's all I ever need to know is, can it happen? Yes, 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 yes.
Your inside voice with Frieza can tell you, yes, it can be.
That's it. Inside and outside voice can say yes. That's good. And then how about when you just said we'll set its own tension limits? I'm getting a little technical here, but again, I do know that from working, again, just like I said, I know enough about motorization to sell it, and that's about where my expertise stops. But I hear with the 6 installers that I have every Monday morning in my meetings, it's, well, Carlos knows how to do the limits on that product, and Billy knows how to do the limits on that product, and we only have Jim available, but he doesn't know that product. I mean, because motorization is complicated. So you're saying that this product, you operate it once and it sets its own limits?
It does, yeah. It sets its own limits. Actually, you would install the drapery on the product first, which obviously the weight of the drapery would impact the tension on the rod, of course.
Right.
So once the drapery's been installed, then you just simply operate the product once open and once closed, and at that point it has set its limits, and we'll move to those limits every time you use it. Now we do have customers that will request a favorites position or a stopping position other than just the full opened or full closed position, and our product does have the ability to set kind of that favorites position, which does take a few more steps from the installer. Mm-hmm. But as far as the basic setup and the basic open and closed tension limits, those are set by the product, so it's very easy to use, very easy to set up.
You need to teach that to all the shade manufacturers now, right? I mean, that's one of the callback calls that we'll get. We'll make an installation of roller shades, motorized roller shades, and whether it's 2 weeks or 2 months or whatever later, the call will come in that something's not working. And if I had a nickel for every time in a meeting, I have Adriana explaining to the installation team what the description is from the client, and one of them will say, oh, it sounds like the limits, became unset. And it's like, great, why don't we just run out there and set those limits again? So, okay, and I also, it's funny because I wasn't going to ask you about a favorites position because I thought, well, if they don't have it, I don't want them to have to say no. So that's nice to know that there's a favorites position, because we do, as homeowners, have the certain type, and for anybody that this just went a tiny bit technical, if you're not familiar with custom window treatments and the terms limits and favorites position, it just means that, like Matt just said, the limit. What is the limit when you open that drape? What limit will it reach when it stops, when the motor stops? So you don't have to hold the motor button down, the remote button down, and watch it and then go, okay, it's open all the way, let me stop it. You want to push the motorization button on your remote and stop being involved in your window treatment. That's the whole point of it being motorized. But if the motor were to keep running past the point that it can keep moving the product, you're going to burn that motor out. So the limit tells it, stop opening here, stop closing here, all by itself. And then favorites is, sometimes I only want it open. Say you have a picture window. I only want it open to the picture window center point at these hours of the day, but at these hours of the day, I want the full exposure. So just a little tutorial on this limits and favorites position there. And the other thing is it a plug-in off of this? So at the end, or wherever the motor is taken, am I taking this down and plugging it into an outlet and the wire is running behind my drapery, or am I having an electrician give me an outlet up at the top? How is that working, you guys?
It is a plug-in, and it comes with a 9-foot cord. So the idea would be, just as you said, you'd be running that cord down behind your drapery panel and then plugging it into the wall.
Okay. And I said, or am I having an electrician putting an outlet? It was just the same darn thing. I meant, am I having an electrician put a connection for a hard wire? Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, but ideas, we love that. A plug-in we love, because 99%, if I didn't do it for a living, I don't think I could say that, but 99% of the time, when you're looking at a window that's going to get a motorized drapery rod, there's usually a plug within 10, 12 inches from that window down on, the right or the left of the window. And as soon as you're going to put a drapery there, you're always going to probably, for the most part, your drape is going to overlap your window that 8 or 10 or 12 inches. And now the plug just comes, like you said, you're supplying a 9-foot cord. It just comes right down. You plug it in. It's super easy and you don't have to see it. It's unlike a roller shade. You're not going to have a plug coming from a roller shade up at the top of the window down the wall, like right in plain view, but the drapery hides that. So it makes it super easy. We don't need an electrician for these types of installations.
No, it is. Yeah, very simple. And it's one of the great, benefits of being in drapery. You mentioned earlier kind of the setting the limits. And I think we get a little bit lucky there on the drapery hardware side too, being we just have to set a stop limit to the outside, not necessarily a lift and lower limit. Right. So this is, again, one of those where we can make some assumptions as to what most draperies will look like. And we know floor to ceiling is obviously where, or at least top to, floor length draperies is what most designers are selling. So we feel really confident that in many cases, the plug will be completely covered.
Yeah, no, it's the truth. I mean, I don't remember. I don't think I can ever really think of any time I've gone in and the plug hasn't been in a location where I'm worried about the wire showing with a drapery at least. Whereas it's in the same location for a shade, but we're all like, well, we're going to put a valance up here. You're going to have an electrician run a wire in the wall, give me another outlet. There's all little nudgy things that go along with it. So. Yeah. So, I mean, in addition to all of this, the new introduction and the refresh of some of the products that you've had for many years that have been our staples that we've been happy to use and can easily specify and place in all of our projects. You also have, you mentioned it a little bit, but you have redone all the marketing and all of the things that support us in selling these products, because so many, I have some displays at Window Works, but I can't possibly display, every single drapery hardware. And so that means that our catalogs are so important to us, and our tear sheets and our brochures. And you guys have redone all of that too, right, Sarah?
We have, yeah. So not only did we redo our sampling device and our portfolios and make those somewhat more designer friendly, we thought, instead of having this big 3-ring binder that has all of our collections in it, we have these nice sleek little portfolios, which I can attest to fit in most handbags, which is great.
So true.
And then we, redid all of our brochures so they have large color pictures. We really thought the focus of these brochures was for the designer to the client. We wanted them to be able to leave, because you can't leave a full drapery rod and finials behind. And if a customer wants to look over a certain collection, we knew that we needed a brochure that showed all of our finials, all of the sizes, and the various different colors that we offered. So we put together these brochures that offer a lot of really nice photography so that the clients can see, and envision it in their homes. And then with that, we made all of this available to not only our distributors, but designers and decorators and their clients online. So you can go and find any of the collateral that we have digitally.
Nice.
So if a customer wants, if a designer wants to email the brochure to their client to review it before she gets there, she can.
Right. Or send a link to say, this is the one I'm supposed. Yeah.
Here's what we have. Yeah.
Right.
And then they're able to kind of look through things either beforehand, or the designer can leave something, and send them a link afterwards and say, hey, I know we were thinking about this. Here's the brochure if you'd like to look it over. That way they have these nice, beautiful marketing, brochures at their fingertips if they don't always have it in their hands.
And I haven't been on the site in a couple of months now, but I know always was the case that we had the password protected portion of the site. So if I wanted to send a client a link to see the estate collection or the Buckingham collection, it doesn't have pricing on it. It's just
no.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
There is a separate section that's only for our distributors that I think has all of 5 things in it. And one of that is our price list. everything else is available to anyone. It's quite an extensive catalog of stuff. We call it our resource library. It has all of our brochures. It has all of the spec sheets for our ArchiTrack system. So if you are doing a commercial application and you need a little bit more technical information, you have that. You have all of our one-page training documents, which includes stack charts and cut down information and splicing information and those sort of things. You have a full section with all of our installation instructions. So if you have an installer who gets on a job and he's not quite sure about something, he can pull it up on his phone or his iPad, and they're all right there, downloadable in PDF and easy to get to. And in 2020, our website, our resource library, will be getting another jolt of information added to it. We've gone through all of our decorative collections, and we're adding a tear sheet for every single item in our decorative collections.
Wow. So
that if as a designer, if you want to pull a mood board and you want to pull the Icarus finial in the Buckingham collection and show the ring that it will go on with the bracket that will be up there, you can pull all that down for your mood board with the fabric that you're thinking about for the client, along with their new sofa color and their pillows and the color that they're going to paint the walls. All of that information's there, and it gets down into all of the measurements and everything you may need. So that if you are, at a client's house and measuring, and you get to a corner application to where you're not sure if that finial will fit, you can pull that tear sheet up quickly and look at it and see if that finial will fit, or if in that corner application you may need to put an end cap on one end. So all of those things, we try to make all of this stuff very easily available, because we don't want anybody to get into the situation to where they have a question that they can't get answered, and so they move on to something else. We want to make everything as easy as possible and as clear as possible.
Well, I have to say, I totally can attest to that. I mean, this is all revised and better, newer, and it sounds even easier, but I've always found it easy to begin with, so.
Well, that's good.
Yes. So I can imagine how much better it is now. So, I mean, I love and appreciate that I can share a link with somebody, and there is that password protected for us.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about that a little bit. So I don't know this to be true. So you tell me. I mean, my designers order it from me, and then I order it from a distributor, or I've in the past had a direct account with you. But I don't even know, can a solo interior designer that might order 5 rods a year from you, can they have an account, or do you I know I would tell you, I would recommend them go to one of your distributors, like we have here in New Jersey, Designer Trade Resources, and it's so funny, in Pennsylvania there's one that's Design Trade Resources, so they're so close in name, but they're both very reputable firms. And I would always encourage a designer to do it through that channel, but can a designer go to direct to you guys, or no?
No.
This is a
it's
great
not
question.
Set up for that.
Yeah, we get this all the time, and particularly now, of course, with us reestablishing the brand to the trade, right? We've become very active in trade shows, and so now the trade is seeing our brand out there again. So it has kind of revived this question for us, and we're extremely flattered, of course, with all the calls from designers asking if they can sign up an account with Kirsch. But as Sarah said, absolutely no. We firmly support our distributors, and the reality is, as Sarah was mentioning from the beginning, when we just talked about how do we go about breathing life into our brand again, it really starts with some of those distributor partners. They add a lot of value to the process. They understand window coverings implicitly, and particularly drapery hardware, where, as we've mentioned, many designers do need an extra recommendation or two, or need to be pointed in the right direction. I think that's what the resource library is all about, not just about supporting that design community directly and giving them those things right at their fingertips, but also helping to support our distributors service our design community better. This was information that many times they were asking us for because their designers were asking them for it. So it's great to be able to now have that information in a public space where it can benefit both the distributor and our designers who are buying from those distributors.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to do it without a partner like that, because it is just as easy as the catalogs are to read, the price list, and you've especially making them even easier with all the questions that you've asked to make the improvements. It's still a lot of details, and you do need somebody that does it every day of the week and understands and speaks the language to lead you through it. So those distributors are so valuable. Yeah. I mean, Billy is 30 plus years experience, and he'll still sometimes call our distributor, Designers Resource here in New Jersey, and say, all right, let's have a little chat about this. How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? Right.
And as I said, 22 years with the brand. When I get around our distributors, sometimes I'm the rookie in the group. Many of our distributors, experts, have decades in the business. So it's real comforting to have partners like that.
Right. I love it. I mean, it's just so good and so exciting. I have to say, I always admire any company, whether it's 100 plus years old like Kirsch, or 20 years old, or 6 years old, whatever it is, where they just are able to look themselves in the mirror and say, do we need to do something else here? Do we have to should we refresh something? And it's so awesome, because then what happens is you bring all of your years of experience and knowledge and know-how to something, and then we get the new improved aesthetics of it, and the process of ordering gets improved, and the ability to make things happen that were not available for. I mean, turning corners and brackets and ceiling brackets and all of those things are things that we're not prepared anymore to just say, oh, we can't do it. We all want to be able to just do it. And it's great when companies like yours are always innovating. And we can see the product at the IWCE. We're going to be at the IWCE International Window Covering Expo in Charlotte in March 25th, 27th. And your booth there is outstanding. It's You really put a lot of money and energy into creating a user experience there, right?
We tried to, yeah. We wanted it to be obviously representative of our brand and what direction we wanted it to go in, but we also wanted it to be inviting and not overwhelming. We have a lot of product. There's a lot of options, but we wanted to make sure when you came in that it felt clean and fresh, and it focused on why we were there that year. Last year we had our new Breeza track with our Chroma estate rod up, with some of our new added Architrack and estate features on one of the towers. This year, again, we'll be revamping it with our new launches within the Wood Trends collection and the Buckingham collection and our new Chroma collection. And so we will be there. We'll be showing everything that we have coming out in the spring, and, have some of our tried and true stuff, and be there to kind of talk to everybody. And again, to listen like we have the past couple of years, and hear the feedback and see what's going on.
I'm here smiling. You can't hear it, but I'm doing it because when Kim gets to the IWCE and she sees the Buckingham collection, the wood collection revamped, she's going to say, "I told you."
Yep. I think some of our distributors that were a little disappointed that we weren't doing designer metals again, but I was like, that got the biggest refresh in 2018.
Wow.
Wood Trends really got more cleaned up. Buckingham, we added the 1 3/8 inch size and everything, so that cleaned that up some.
Good. Yeah, that's good. But you need that, because that's, I forgot about that, because Buckingham always was the 2-inch and larger, and so I think she wants wood to come back. I'm not sure she wants 3-inch wood to come back.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, we're kind of this. It's still like we get some of those finials, and I'm amazed at the pain you could inflict on somebody with.
Oh my goodness!
They're massive.
But no, you don't know. I used to have one sitting by my desk for years, the big, huge pine cone one.
Oh yeah.
Because I would work late at night at Window Works, and I have a pipe next to my desk and one of those big, huge pine cone finials.
Yep, that could do some damage to somebody.
Because I thought, if I got to try and take somebody out from 5 feet away, I'm going to throw this pine cone at them.
And it would definitely hurt somebody. But yeah, so we really did a lot in designer metals in 2018, and so a couple of our distributors were like, "What? You're not doing stuff in metals? Like, metals is so popular." And I'm like, and it still will continue to be popular, but
Right.
these two collections right here, they need some love. And so we're gonna look at them, and in 2022 we'll be back to designer metals.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You guys are something else. I really do. I'm so glad for this new collaboration between yourselves and me. I love when I can, working with a company that I already know, love, and trust, and believe in, and know that you are, who you say you are. So thank you so much for being a new podcast sponsor. And I will do my very best to let interior designers consistently know of the value and the benefit of working with you and your products.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Luann.
So my great thanks to Matt, Sarah, and the entire Kirsch family. I'm looking forward to this collaboration, which, as I said to you, is a no-brainer for me, as I have already been a loyal customer of Kirsch for more than 3 decades, and I can confidently attest to their products, their quality, and their service. Over the coming months, you will learn more about the many products available at Kirsch, and in the meantime, I encourage you to visit Kirsch.com to learn about their full line and to find a distributor partner in your area. Okay? So that's Kirsch, KIRSCH.com. Thanks tons for joining me today. I wish that you have an excellent day, and I want to encourage you to decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at luannigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.